Before we get this party started, I want to take a moment and give a big warm shout out to our newest Patreon, Carol F.A. Carol, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. I am sending you a virtual hug right now, right at this moment. I know you can feel it. And if you are also interested in getting your very own shout out on the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. There are great member perks such as live weekly streaming classes with yours truly. The link to that is in the show notes, and I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode. Welcome to the Yoga and Podcast. I am your host, Ashley Weber, a yoga teacher and embodiment teacher who is living, learning, and teaching every day here in beautiful Austin, Texas. And I am so curious about all things yoga and. This podcast is about yoga and everything, but it also consists of interviewing the people in the mind-body world who are contributing to their communities in creative and innovative ways. This show is dedicated to honoring these people. Today, we will explore the subject of yoga and everybody. And I'm especially excited about this episode because I'll be interviewing former pro basketball player and trauma-informed yoga teacher, Chris Isom. We will be discussing all about yoga and Chris's new Austin-based yoga studio located in the historic east side of town called Yoga for Everybody. Chris will share with us his vision of his new studio and what that celebrates supporting the community as well as inclusivity. He also candidly shares with us his ups and downs from living in Austin for over a decade. In his sharing, he reveals what he has learned and how owning his current studio can help to heal. I know you will get something out of this episode. Chris has such great energy and enthusiasm. It is inspiring. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode, y'all. Joining us on today's episode is trauma-informed yoga teacher and owner of Yoga for Everybody, Chris Isom. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Would you like to introduce yourself just a little bit more? Tell us who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I am doing pretty good today because anytime I have an opportunity to meet people, number one, that's a beautiful thing for myself. And I don't know, I just bought this ring light. And so that's the light that you see. So I'm actually excited to be using it right now.
Yeah, you're very well lit. I was curious. I'm glad to know. Ring light.
Yeah, I can also too with this ring light, I can change the the temperature. So it but right now I have it making me pop. But yeah. With that being said, I took an early walk this morning. As far as my day, I've been up since like 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Wow.
And really, I don't know. It's just something that's like the spirit just woke me up, and I went to the studio that we'll talk about later, and just cased out the place. And I walked around the neighborhood, ran around the neighborhood. I heard the birds chirping. It was beautiful. So my goal now, of course, during quarantine, is to get up around at least 5 o'clock in the morning, just to beat everybody up in the sun, because it felt so good today. And to be honest with you, I'm riding on the high right now, or it could be just that I'm on your show that's making me ride on the high like this. But yeah, my background is listen, y'all, I'm a country boy from East Texas, and I feel like a fish out of water here. I'm in Austin, Texas now, and I've been here for 10 years. And I'll be honest with you, I still, I guess like you say, home is where the heart is. My mother raised us in a small community called Bleakwood, Texas.
Okay.
And, population is like 200, 300 people.
Wow. Okay.
Kempner,
Texas was like in my teenage years, and it was like that.
Wait, what?
Near Lampasas, Texas, very small towns. Kempner was even smaller. So I feel ya. I've been there. I've I understand.
You feel me? You feel me?
The country life is very different than the Austin life. So
Yeah. And I think that's why I fall in love with nature so much. Is we talking about like obviously doing yoga and you know being one with nature is what we talk about a lot.
mm-hmm.
What I realized is I grew up in nature, literally. Like it was nothing but trees, and I mean that's all I know. So going out in nature actually gives me a sense of peace and home. Just like this morning, just waking up and hearing the birds chirp. That's all I know. And so, and also too, I just that country living, just how we were raised, like the open door policy, and you know, you treat your neighbors as you would treat yourself. And I think when we talk a little bit later, that's my whole essence of what community is for me, and how we want to use that fabric and implement it into this yoga space. But yeah, I'm from, like I say, from East Texas. I have a twin brother. He's playing professional basketball currently in Abu Dhabi. He's been playing pro ball for 13 years. My older brother, Matthew, who's a big coach. Yeah. Traveling the world doing what he loves. So that's a beautiful thing. My oldest brother, Malcolm, is a coach, and my sister, beautiful, they all live in Houston. So we all Texas, still born and raised in Texas. And cool. I will say this, as far as my mom and my dad, look, I might cry sometime during this podcast when I talk about my family, because I'm such a family-oriented guy. But my mother and my father, that's the only reason why I'm able to do what I'm doing right now. They were the most supportive parents that you could ever imagine. Wow. Even until today. Yeah, it's crazy. So having that level of support, I think that's why I always emphasize community and supporting one another. And I'm only able to do the stuff that we're doing with the youth, as we talk a little bit later, because I saw my mom and my dad support me. If I didn't have that within myself, I couldn't pour from an empty cup. You see what I'm saying? And so I feel like it was my obligation, not even obligation, my purpose, my duty, my passion is to give unto others as it was given to me. You know what I mean? And I see so many kids out here with fatherless homes. And even if they do have a father, especially in these underserved and marginalized communities, you know, they're kind of a little bit absent, you know what I mean? And so if I can step in any way, shape, form, or fashion to provide that relief for the mom and the dad, you know, and offer different programs and things like that, that's what I'm called to do. And also too, I don't have kids of my own. So it's like, until I get those, I'm just gonna, you know, adopt the community kids and try to bridge that gap too.
That's awesome. That's so sweet. So it sounds like your parents modeled for you what it means to take care of others in your community, to support people around you. They modeled that, and then now you're bringing that forward into your own life and doing the same. So let's also just get right into it. The episode's called Yoga and Everybody, and the inspiration behind the name. Let's have you sort of talk about your new endeavor.
Cool. Don't mind if I do. I don't mind if I do. So when we talk about yoga, right? And I'm gonna simplify it. I know I might answer questions that, you know, I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. We're doing a podcast, there's notes that they give. I may answer some of these questions that are on the notes. So I'm just saying.
That's fine. Yeah.
For your audience. But when we talk about yoga for everybody, and then obviously a subtitle is a community yoga project, right? Because it is a community yoga project. So I've been doing yoga for 10 years. And when I first initially got into yoga, and I know y'all like, you don't even look 10 years old. I know. But I've been doing yoga for 10 years, started off in Houston, Texas, the Woodlands to be exact, which is a suburb north of Houston. And there was a gentleman that said that yoga helped him with his alcohol and drug addiction. Now, me, myself, I was being a little bit humble earlier when I was talking about my twin brother, but I played professional basketball for a year as well in Iceland. And so my background, yes, ma'am. So my background is obviously in sports. I've been moving my body for 3 decades, you know what I mean? And so that's all I know. And so when I first initially got introduced to yoga and the gentleman said it helped him with his alcohol and drug addiction, I'm like, how? Like, how is stretching? And I'm gonna be honest with you, sorry ladies, I was like, how is stretching and something for the lady? How does that help you with your alcohol and drug addiction? But at the time I was ignorant. And I don't want anyone to use the term ignorant in a negative way, but ignorance is just, you don't have full information of what it is that, you know, the topic is. So he told me, man, you got to try the class. And my first class just so happened to be a hot yoga class, 105 degrees, 26 postures. It's a Bikram yoga class.
Okay.
And man, yeah. And when I got it, have you ever done a Bikram yoga class?
Oh yeah, I have. It's not for me.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Speaking of everybody, but so when I first did the class, for me, I needed something challenging, coming from a sports background. And I said, yo, if I'm gonna do yoga, because in my mind I'm thinking it's just stretching. In my mind I'm thinking it's just for the ladies. I need something challenging though. So I took that class. It was great for me. Because one thing I understand about yoga, for me, and I tell a lot of people this, is it's the one thing that you can expend energy, but it also gives you energy in return. So if you think about exercise, if I exercise for an hour, 2 hours, you can tell you're tired. But with yoga, especially after that experience and however hot it was in that class, I felt better. I felt more energized. And so I was like, oh man, I'm on to something. And so ended up moving to Austin. And I will say this, that's where everything changed for me, because in Austin, it's dubbed as a diverse place, right? But on the contrary, it's not a diverse place, or at least it's not as diverse as it could be, right? It has a lot of, talk to me, you know it.
Oh yeah, it's not. Yeah. I mean, we're going through the COVID right now as we're recording, and things are coming up, especially even in the yoga community, that it's it's not as diverse as you want to hope. And because Austin's always been this little liberal oasis in Texas, and it's not even as liberal as it claims to be. So
Right. See, I'm glad we share the same sentiment.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming to Austin, it blew my mind, because all I saw, let's just be honest, well, just people that did not look like me, not my skin color. Very few minorities in the yoga community. And in addition to that, very few men. So I'm already coming into the yoga studio at a disadvantage to a degree, right?
Well, I have a question. Wait, maybe I missed it. How did you get to Austin? What brought you here exactly?
Honestly, at the time, my ex, I'm still healing from that 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my ex, no, she had a job here in New York at New York Life as a financial advisor, and I was a teacher that was teaching at the time in Houston. And so upon taking her here, I had a car. She didn't have a car at the time. I was taking her back and forth to Austin for an interview, and I just fell in love with the city. Like I said, I've been doing movement for over 30 years, and so just seeing the people running on the trails, and then it just so happened New York Life is in what a 360 bridge is. If you're in Austin, Texas, the 360 bridge, it overlooks this big, beautiful body of water. It's in the hills. So that was kind of my first glimpse of Austin, is seeing the beauty of it all. And in the East Texas, it's definitely not like that. It's more plains and things like that. So it just blew my mind. And so I wanted to move here, one, because I've always been in the movement, and I thought it would be a good place for us to be, or me to be. And plus my ex at the time, she had a job. So it just ended up being the right fit. And I knew that I was coming here for the fitness endeavor, which is what I've been doing ever since. You know what I mean? And like I say, the city does cultivate that within you to want to exercise, want to work out, want to eat healthy. And of course, you know, Whole Foods, if you guys have been to Whole Foods, it's originated here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And, right? So yeah, that got me here. And like I say, I was already hooked with the yoga bug, and fitness been all my life. So I had to find the first Bikram yoga studio I could. And I got there, and like I say, it was good in the sense that it was helping me as far as the therapy of, you know, meditation and stretching my body, releasing the energy. But at the same time, it was really kind of an oxymoron or a double-edged sword, because it was healing, but at the same time traumatizing. Because like I say, I didn't see people that looked like me. I didn't see men in there. I didn't see too many like athletes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of the emphasis that I want to help. Go ahead.
Oh, I never thought of that part of it. You're going to this doing this thing that's healing, but the environment doesn't feel maybe safe, because you don't feel like you're included. There's no representation of someone similar. And so, yeah, wow, that just kind of blew my mind a little bit. But go ahead, what you're saying.
I'm glad I can blow your mind. But yeah, so it was, like I say, it was therapeutic but traumatizing at the same time. And at the time, 10 years ago, yoga in America was really just now kind of getting to the point of mainstream. You know what I mean? There was so much misunderstanding, so much misinformation behind it. And you got, like I say, once again, I'm from East Texas. Let me tell you something. I must have gotten called crazy so many times for doing yoga. And that's the other thing. My own, my upbringing as far as hip hop culture and just being a black athlete, they didn't understand it. But they saw it helping me. So that intrigued them, but they didn't understand it. So many ways just in this field of yoga, I was like hit with this misunderstanding, misinformation, and trauma, to be honest with you. But didn't know it at the time because there was who was I gonna tell? No one even understood what yoga really was at the time, right? And so that was the emphasis on why I wanted to name my yoga studio, Everybody. And because like I say, I don't care if you look at any studio, by and large, on average, it's mostly rich, and I say rich people that have a little bit of money to pay $100, $150 per month. For a membership. A lot of communities can't even afford that because, like I say, that's life or death for a lot of communities and a lot of families. It's like, am I going to spend this $100 on a yoga membership, or am I going to eat tonight, or me and my kids going to eat this week or this month? You know what I mean? And so that's what it was up against. And so not only was it more for the well-to-do. In addition to that, a lot of ladies in there. In addition to that, people that were not of people of color were not in there. So I wanted to create a safe space for everybody to do yoga. I don't care what religion you are. You could be Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Taoism. I don't care, right? Because there is that oneness that all brings us home, and that's the connection between one another. And in a world full of division, this is the opportunity. This is the perfect time so we can come together. And so it's for everybody. I grew up Christian, right? And so obviously my mother, till today, she's sending me scriptures, right? And I understand how much of a disconnect that community has even in the yoga world. So it's like Christians don't understand, the yoga world. And then the yogis feel like there's a disconnect between Christianity and they feel like they're being judged. But listen, y'all, how do we come together? How do we bridge that gap? Because there's a lot of healing to be had on both sides individually, but also too collectively. And take it from me, it's been a beautiful, interesting journey to bridge those two gaps. And not only those two gaps, between men and women being in yoga, people of color being in yoga. That's the everybody and the essence of what I mean. And I'll say this last thing in closing on this question. I want this to be a community effort because even in the yoga world, there's competition now. You know what I mean? In business, right? Yeah, And so it's like, man, we're missing the point. It's like, not as separation, not only we already have enough separation going on in the world politically and just socioeconomic status and all of that. Not only within this healing modality, there's separation and division there, beyond the mat. So it's like now they're competing and whose studio is best and who's making more money. And come on, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Now you're missing the point. And somebody like myself, who I'm a twin. So I came in the womb with somebody else. So I feel energy. I've always been a part of a team. As far as sports, and I've been a part of a team. I came in the womb with someone. So I'm a team player. I'm about community and connection. And if I don't feel that, if there's a disconnect, trust me, I feel it more than most people. And so I felt it, like I said, that goes to that trauma again. I felt it. I'm like, man, something doesn't seem right. And here it is 10 years later, finally being able to have the opportunity as a Black man to open a yoga studio, you know what I mean, on the east side of Austin in this historic district. I'm going to close right here because you may have questions, but I can go on and on.
Questions. I love it. I love this is, well, first of all, this studio is going to be the first of its kind. I believe you said there hasn't been a Black-owned studio in Austin ever, right?
So we're one of the first. There was a lady, it was called Energies Balanced. in yoga. I mean, in yoga, in Austin. I'm
Okay.
not even
I
I'm not
remember
sure
that
if,
one.
excuse me?
I remember that one. So I guess it's no longer.
Yeah, I don't know if she got enough support. You know how it is, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and I think the beauty about this go around is I would love to have her input on how we can help build it. It's not about the competition for me. I want you to be a part of this, and I want everybody to support it. And also too, this one right here is in the historic part of East Austin. That's the other implication in how epic and how major it is, because in this historic district of Austin, right on the corner with this amazing mural by a gentleman named Chris Rogers. He does a lot of different murals around town, and everybody knows him. You guys should check him out. But the siding of the building is a mural of all kinds of people of color, entertainers, artists, and just it's perfect. So that district is, excuse me.
Oh, it's just that's like a good omen. Like the fact that, yeah.
Yeah, and so and I think the beauty is, girl, I'm gonna have to tell you how we got the space. So, but I think the beauty is in that district. You know, years ago, decades ago, that used to be a historic Black community where it was thriving businesses, thriving bars and entertainment and artists, and you know that community it was bustling, right? And so over time, of course, drugs and prostitution and things like that kind of dismantled the community. And of course, it's like a sweeping of the broom. When that happens, gentrification comes right on in and sweeps everybody out, right? So this once historic district, Black business with a lot of Black businesses and Black ownership and entertainment and all of that, right? Grocery stores, all of that. It's been slowly but surely moved away. So the implication of us being able to get the studio to say, you know what, there's a Black-owned establishment that's here to stay and is going to be successful in this historic district, it's almost like, you know what? No, we're going to keep this here for our city, for our community. And I'll leave it with this. Like Gandhi said this. This is how we're going to build it. I'm paraphrasing Gandhi, right? A story of Gandhi. Gandhi went to one of his, I guess, a country that was against him, and it was killing his people. And so Gandhi went to the guy. You know how prime ministers and leaders, they meet with one another. And Gandhi was like, yo, you have got to stop killing my people. I mean, this is going to stop. And the gentleman was like, well, who's going to stop me? And how are you going to stop me? And Gandhi, who practices peace and nonviolence, he said, I'm going to stop you with your help. And so to me, that was like, wow. Somebody that's been against your people, you say, yeah, I'm going to stop you, but it's going to be with your help. And sure enough, years later, they signed a peace treaty with one another, and they became one. And I think that's the essence of what I want this yoga studio to be. And even though there's gentrification, has been gentrified around, but the community, we are going to help build this. You know what I mean? That's how we're going to do it. So if anyone asks me, well, how are you going to build it, Chris? I'm going to say, with your help. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah, so, and I think that also gives people ownership of the space, because then it's like, especially when you have ownership of something, you make it like it's almost yours. You want to protect it. I want all good energy and good vibrations going toward this place. And so, and I think that the connection of love, regardless of what race and socioeconomic status you are, everybody can come back to some space of love, and you can always come to Everybody Yoga when it opens.
I love that. How did you get this space? You said there's well, you told me on the phone, but I want to hear it again.
So I call it, in the Christian community, we call it a blessing. In other communities, you may call it a good omen or just a synchronicities. Call it what you want, right? Once again, whatever you want to call it. I was riding by, and I was like, man, that says police. And the sign was kind of like half folded on the front. I said, I looked in first. I was like, man, this will be an amazing yoga studio. Cause I had to like peep in the windows. I said, I have to call these people. And so long story short, I called and I had to leave a voicemail. They didn't answer. And luckily, I left a message of why I was calling, because I think this propelled them to call me back. I was like, hey, my name is Chris Isom. I'm just calling. I saw that you guys have a police sign, and I think it would be so epic. Everything that's happening right now, I told her on the phone. I said, I think it would be so epic if we turn it into a yoga studio, and it'd be good for the communities, and we can provide some health and healing. And I'm glad I said that because that's what made the lovely lady call me back. I think it was the same night or that next day. And she was like, hey, I was just calling you back about the yoga studio. She said, unfortunately, we were just told someone we were going to sign the lease with them and they already were moving through with it. She said, but that idea of a yoga studio, that's exactly what we had in mind, me and my partner. And I was like, yes, like that it makes sense. And so, you know, just praying about it and all of that, man, and just sending good vibes for it. She called me within that week and said, you know what? I don't know how God, the universe, I don't know how it happened, but some kind of way they were able to reverse that signage of the lease with the other gentleman, and they gave it to me. And so it was like, that's why I was like, it's so how this is happening, especially with that mural, especially on this historic side of East Austin, and the implication of what's going on in the world as far as Black ownership and Black businesses and Black Lives Matter. In addition to that, the historic nature of the city, the dividing line of Interstate 35. On the west of Interstate 35, you have the more affluent and people. And then on the east side of 35, I feel like we've been forgotten about. So to be able to stand there and bring everybody together, I think it's just epic and huge. And how we were able to get the space is just like, it's meant to be.
That is awesome. Where exactly is it located? If you can.
Yeah, so it's on 12th and Chacon. So it's 1900 East 12th Street. And the beauty is there's a 3-4 blocks away, a couple of blocks away, really, there's Huston-Tillotson University, which is an historically Black college. Mm-hmm. And so think about it. And just within that radius, there's so much culture, so much history that we'll be cheating ourselves if we don't bring that culture and that energy and a different perspective of life back to our communities. We'll be cheating one another. And so that's kind of what I want to invite in. And I mentioned Huston-Tillotson University for this reason. When I say everybody, yes, I don't want just older people doing yoga. I want college students doing yoga. I want youth yoga. We want all of that. And I think it's just being able to get the college students involved, which they already are. I'll say this, I'm kind of young and I act young a little bit, but have a young spirit. But it's the youth that are setting the trend. If you think about the hottest music, hottest fashion, hottest everything, it's the youth that's their purchasing power. They're the ones that's saying, hey, this is what the world is. This is what's trendy. This is what's hot. Now imagine if we make it hot for college kids to do yoga. Imagine if we made it hot for everybody to collectively, as a community, come together to build one safe space. Imagine if we made it hot to say, hey, it's okay for everybody, pun intended, to do yoga. And I think when we reach the youth like that, oh man, this thing will pop. And by and large in the yoga communities, there's not enough emphasis toward the youth in general. Even during this quarantine, we're so self-absorbed sometimes that we don't look out. And I feel this is an opportunity to look out and say, hey, who are we forgetting here? We're forgetting our youth. And I can talk a little bit more about our youth programs that me and my company and my team does later in this podcast. But yeah, we got to start focusing on our youth as well.
So how did you start teaching children yoga? How did that manifest in your life?
Becoming a physical education teacher, because so in 10 years of being in Austin, I did leave and go home for a year and a half. It's only so much the mind and trauma can take, you know what I'm saying? Totally. And plus my heart was longing for home. I'm a country boy, remember? I'm at literally, if you look to your left and your right, you have sticks and trees everywhere. And we used to always say we're from the woods or we're from the sticks. And so being that grounded all your life, I needed to go back home. I needed a filling station because like I told you before, Austin did not have that essence that I needed. You know what I mean? And so with children's yoga, I had to go back home, or I chose to rather, and I became a physical education teacher. Shout out to Port Arthur, Texas, Abraham Lincoln Middle School, Miss Baptiste, Miss Lasagna Baptiste for giving me the opportunity. She was the principal. And so became a physical education teacher. And at that point, that's when I was like, yo, I had already been doing yoga for so many years. Let me implement this, and understanding how yoga can help we always like to label our kids with ADD, ADHD, and that the behavior issues. We can assist in a lot of those things by teaching them how to breathe, mindfulness, because doing yoga and also meditation, it helps self-regulate your nervous system. And to be able to teach, or at least provide some resources to our youth about that, we don't have to tell them that, yeah, you're bad. You have behavior problems, or you're mental, you have ADHD. I had kids tell me all the time, yeah, I can't help it because I have ADHD. Really making that statement, like, I can't not help it because I have ADHD or whatever. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate that we're telling our youth this, because then they grow up, they're impressionable. Then they grow up thinking this and they behave accordingly. And I think it's time, especially in these times, in coronavirus, COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, and in quarantine where everybody's sitting with self, I think it's important that we create a new covenant, just as Jesus did in the Bible, or a new paradigm, right? Because if we were talking in the spiritual world, it's the same thing. Create a new covenant or a new paradigm and start emphasizing on our youth, start emphasizing yoga and mindfulness within our school districts. And I've done some work here in Sanctuary Austin, Sanctuary Yoga. This is where I got my community yoga teacher training. We could talk a little bit more about that here later, but I'm using my practices. I'm using what I've learned now, finally. Forget about being in the class learning for some months. Now we can really use this and implement this, and not only just have people coming to the yoga studio, but also we're going to them as a community. Because the only way one knows that you care is if you actually show up. And I'll close this part with this. The reason why I said earlier, I prefaced it with saying I can only do these things because my mother and my father were so supportive. Similarly, because they came to every game when we played sports, right? So imagine a kid, they were the parent of from little league, middle school, high school, college, and even professional. They are the parents that if they were not in the stands, people are like, whoa, where are they? Because some of these kids didn't even have fathers and mothers themselves coming to the game. So how we knew they cared, that they showed up every single game. And whether they had to travel or not, it was fun for us. And with that being said, I feel like the only way people know you actually care as far as community is not only have people coming to you, but we have to come to them. So it's nothing like having a kid playing basketball and they looking up in the stands and they don't see mom and dad. But mom and dad is not there, they're living, but they're telling you, son, we support you. I know you do in heart and in spirit and mind and body and soul. Well, not necessarily body because you're not here, but in soul and energy. But man, I want you to come to the game. That would mean so much to a kid or because we all kids in nature, or even an adult. Show up. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what we need to do with our communities as well. A lot more outreach in this yoga, with everybody yoga. We're going to do a lot more outreach and a lot more in-reach as well. So it's kind of want to get that whole ultimate holy grail there of the yin and the yang, the ebb and the flow. It's the this and the that, not this or that. You know what I mean? We have to bring it together.
Yeah. So it sounds like in order to heal our community or just nurture our community, we have to have action of showing up, of coming to them. And I like what you're saying about coming to them as well as them coming to you, to your studio. I think so. We know each other from Sanctuary Yoga, love Sanctuary Yoga. Would you want to talk a little bit more about your work with them?
So with Sanctuary Yoga, it is the only, man, now that I think about it, I'm always getting blessed with these beautiful opportunities. It's the only nonprofit yoga studio in all of Austin. For those that did not hear that, I'm going to say it again. It is the only nonprofit yoga studio in all of Austin. The proceeds obviously go to the maintenance of the facility, and in addition to that, paying our teachers. But they have this beautiful, beautiful program that they're associated with called the Amala Foundation. And so obviously I taught at Sanctuary Yoga, but in addition to that, they have what we call the Amala Foundation, and we taught the youth socio-emotional learning tools and skills. And we did things like Circle Up, where we invited, it's similar. We did things like Circle Up, where we invited the youth to talk about these issues, teaching yoga, mindfulness, and how to deal with, society and things like that, and the things that they're coming up against, and how to work through that. And working through that, not just on your own, and maybe not even through a physical practice of yoga, even though we include those things, but working through those things together so we can allow them a safe space to be open and vulnerable and authentic with themselves, because society, as you know, is a cruel world out there. And a lot of these youth growing up in times that, even though I'm still in that age where I was able to see the old school plus the new school, but I feel like they're growing up in a time that is more challenging. It's a lot more things and a lot more distractions. And so if we can provide a space for them to come to heal and nurture and be nurtured, it was a dope experience. In addition to that, we also did what we call Rise Up. We went out to the schools and taught those same principles and tools, social emotional learning tools and skills that most often we're missing in our school system. So this, to be honest with you, is a result. This is just but a fruit of the seed that was planted before me. You know what I mean? And so I have to give credit to who I consider my mindfulness mentor, Sean Kent, because he did an amazing job with doing the community yoga. And I know you know Sean Kent now.
Yes, and I recently interviewed Jacob Fisher on the show, and he had, I know, yes, Sean Kent is amazing. He had lovely things to say, and having worked at Sanctuary as well, same, like we all like, oh, Sean Kent.
Yeah, Sean is the man. Sean is the man. So, but yeah, so Sanctuary Yoga did a lot. I was a youth facilitator at the Amala Foundation and Sanctuary Yoga, because they're collective. And it was beautiful, and I also taught yoga there. So that's my dealings with them.
Did you teach, I might be mistaken, did you teach yoga for men? Did you do that series?
Yeah. Oh man, thank you. I was like, wait, what? I've done.
I mean, was it called that? It was something like that. It was a name like that, right?
We had what was the name of our so we used to do these yoga. So it was for men. It was called Forging Resiliency.
Okay, yes.
For men. And so like I say, oftentimes with men, ladies, hear me out. No, just kidding. we really don't, seriously, we don't get an opportunity or a platform to be expressive and be open and vulnerable about the things we're going through. You know what I mean? And it's hard out here for a man, as well as it is hard out here for everybody. Mm-hmm. Pun intended. That's a shameless plug. Every time I say that, that's a shameless plug for my studio. But it is hard out here for everybody, and oftentimes men are being taught that to toughen up and hide your emotion. That's being strong, and actually it is being strong. We don't need to negate that aspect of it either. You have to persevere. You have to stand up. You have to be strong and resilient. But another form of resiliency also too is being able to, because oftentimes men, we have our egos and our shells up. That's comfortable for us to not say anything about the things we're going through. But we understand it. There's not a lot of healing being had when you just harboring all of that. And so, like I say, society by and large is telling men like, yo, pour that in, toughen up, keep pushing. Although I do believe in that as well. But hey, what about when we do need to talk to somebody? What about opportunity where we're brother to brother? We can like be open and vulnerable and authentic with one another, and more importantly, authentic with ourselves. Because if we don't practice being authentic with ourselves, it's like the root of a tree. The root has to be, we have to function in truth. And the truth, it has to be rooted into something. And so if we're not functioning in truth and we're lying to ourselves and we're not being open and honest and vulnerable to our core, then we're going to function in this world in a place of non-truth. We're not functioning from our core or our center. So we'll wonder like, why am I still stressed out, or why this is not working? Because we haven't tapped into how we really feel. Some of the things that are actually really going on with ourselves. And that takes work. That does take practice. That is the self-reflection. That is the mindfulness. That is the yoga. That is tapping in. And that's being open, honest, and vulnerable as well. And so the men's circle was just a way for us to meet once a month, to have that opportunity to speak about these things, anything, without judgment. That's the other thing, without judgment.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and we did that, and it was a beautiful situation.
Do you think you'll do something like that similarly at your studio?
Well, no, I don't think. I know. I know I will. Like I say, this is it's going to be an expanded version of what was going on there. And of course, I can't just say all of what was going on in Sanctuary and the Amala Foundation, but definitely a lot of elements from what we've learned in our community yoga teacher training is going to be the premise of what's in here, and as well as what I've learned in my beliefs and things growing up, how my mother taught me, how my father taught me, and you know, other things that I've gained and garnered along the way. I'm not one of those guys that have this dividing line, because there we go again with division, right? I feel like we can all take elements from each religion and philosophy and culture and creed and combine it now. Like, it's like eating food. We are like nature. So it's like eating food. When I eat food, or even when I drink this water here, my body is not going to assimilate every single thing. It's gonna use what it has, and it's gonna discard the rest. And similarly, if we want to take from these different philosophies, religions, creeds, nationalities, take what you feel like is sets well with you and vibes with you. You know what I mean? And then the rest, you don't have to believe in everything, but discard the rest. You know what I mean? But don't judge it, because that same thing that you're discarding or that you're judging, that may work for someone else. And so to be able to teach and facilitate a space like that, it's challenging, but that's why we did the community yoga work, to learn these things, because it's going to be diverse groups within this studio that we're creating. And how do we frame our rhetoric? How do we make it safe and open for everybody? It's and women included. You know, just understanding their trauma as being women and what they've gone through, and being okay, because we're definitely going to have a lot of different talks and things like that within that space. But I see a world to where men get healing. I see a world where women can get healing as well, but also too, where we collectively can have open dialogue and we can heal together. Because even then, I see a lot of, man, you know, like a lot of division between the men and the women these days. And it's unfortunate to see, because, man, I like to see us, you know, loving up on one another. But all it is we've all been hurt. We've all been traumatized. And when we guard out, when you're traumatized and you're hurt, you guard your heart. And so what happens is it's just a lot of hurt people walking around guarded, but hurt people hurt people. So we're continuing that same cycle, wondering like, man, where is love? Where is love? But everybody's hurting. No one's healing. So how do we bridge that gap? So that's what everybody, the essence is. Everybody. I don't care if you've made a mistake in your life. We don't judge here. You know what I mean? Because anyone who's ever made a mistake is welcome in this yoga studio, right? Anyone who's ever made a mistake. And so if we function from that truth and be honest with ourselves and say, I made a mistake, so let me come. And not judging, because if we know we made a mistake, we can't judge someone else. In the Bible, it says, he who is without sin, let them cast the first stone. And I don't think any of us can do that. And so I think in that, if we can only connect on that one thing, have you made a mistake before? If you have, raise your hand. If we can only connect on that one thing, then we're working with something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so excited about your studio. Because, you know, right now we're in the middle of COVID. When do you think you'll open it to the public? Is it going to be virtual at first? Like, what are your thoughts about initiating the start of your studio? Yeah.
And so, man, it's so much. Listen. So here's the thing. What I've noticed, speaking of coronavirus, and I'm gonna also say another epic thing that has happened this year, which is Black Lives Matter. Remember when for 2 weeks across the globe, everybody was joining hands, and it was a beautiful sight to see, right? And so what happened was the rhetoric of COVID-19 kind of, let's just be honest, that's all you see on TV. We're gonna minimize that story, right? And so I understand what we're up against with COVID-19 and also too the implication of Black Lives Matter and getting this done. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna definitely abide by the protocols of sanitizing, masks, gloves, all of that. But we're gonna get some yoga. We're gonna be in that studio, because what we're also missing is connection with one another. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That in and of itself is healing. And so as much as I love seeing you on the TV screen, I would love to see you in person. You know what I'm saying? And so that connection, and I think it's necessary. I know that during Black Lives Matter, a lot of things that happened is everybody was joining hands, and sometimes it's an emotional response to something that has already happened, right? So yeah, our emotions want to, what can we do right now? And let's protest and all of that. That's great. It's necessary. But afterwards, one poses the question, what's the solution? What do we do now? And this is the what do we do now? This is the solution. This is, you know what I mean? This is not an emotional response. This takes planning. It takes collective people coming together. It takes all of that. And so what I'm going to do, not what we're thinking about, this is what we're going to do, is we're definitely going to open the space. So grand opening, this be realistic because we have to kind of do some stuff to the inside of the space, even though the space is beautiful. It's an open canvas right now. And I'll talk about the open canvas here in a second. But it's a space that can still be utilized right now. So I'm going to say this. What we're going to do within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a movie night because we do a lot of work with the youth. We're going to have a movie night for the youth. We're going to have a big projector in there. We're going to have the popcorn, all of that stuff. And this is an opportunity for the parents to meet one another within that community or other communities. Because I want to see white kids, black kids, Asian. I want to see all kids there. So we're going to open that space up. It's open right now. It's a white wall. It's beautiful. Oh man, there's so much opportunity. So we're going to do a movie night, an opportunity not only for the kids to have fun and the youth, because like I say, no one's really talking a lot about the youth and what we can do for our youth. We're talking about our problems. It's political. No, what about our youth though? This is what they're seeing. So providing that for that space. And secondly, we're going to do a fundraiser mixer to where we can have, you know, now of course more of the adult crowd and people that just want to come and see the space. We're going to have, of course, you know, your wine, and then if people want to donate, sponsor, see how they can help, this is an opportunity to see that space. In addition to that, just have a little bit of fun, because a lot of us that are up in age, we want to kind of let loose too. We want to provide that space for that. And a lot of people have been asking, how can I help? We'll let you know what's going on at this mixer. We'll give you up-to-date information, and also, too, more importantly, an opportunity for people to connect within communities or different business to business, all of those great things. And I'll say this in closing, too. What we're going to do in that studio, in that space before we open, and I'll tell you about our grand opening, what we're going to do also, too, is we're going to offer some yoga classes. Yes, we are. We don't have like and that's before we get the schedule and mind, body, and all of that. We're going to host like what I've been doing, going outreach. We don't have to necessarily go so much out to everybody. You guys can come here now. This is going to help us build pay the rent. This is going to help us bring awareness, but we're also providing some yoga. We may provide capoeira classes because one of my other great friends, he does capoeira, which is a Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian martial art. I think, getting people moving and freeing their body and energy, I think we need to use that space now. And to answer your question toward this, our grand opening is going to be at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be about 4 months. But like I said, we're going to be doing stuff in as little as 2 weeks at that space. But the grand opening will be at the beginning of the year. I think it's only right. In addition to that, you guys be prepared for the grand opening. Oh, my God. We're going to shut down the whole block. It's going to be one big block party, one big jamboree. We're going to have marching bands there. We're going to have vendors. It's going to, we're preparing that for that now. And then that way, everybody can come to that community space. By then, we'll have our schedule laid out with teachers and all kind of amazing stuff. So be on the lookout very, very soon for opportunities, options that's going on in that studio.
Cool. And the stuff going on in the next few weeks, obviously there's going to be the safety, like the mask and stuff like that, and limited numbers and.
Yeah, for sure. Limited numbers, safety, precautions, all of the great things.
Great.
I'll say this, and the reason why I'm confident in doing it is because, like I said, I saw millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people across the globe standing hand in hand during Black Lives Matter. If we can't stand together for one cause, which, by the way, I went out there on the front lines. I'm like, okay, I see we can do something if we come together. I see this. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I got hit with one of those like little pellet bullets. And they didn't aim it at me, but it just kind of ricocheted. But that just goes to show you how close. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I just said, I know I need to be in this. I need to see this. As opposed to my dad grew us up, speaking of my father again, Curtis Isom, shout out. Because he grew us up on, most kids don't have these opportunities to have their parents teaching them these things. But he grew us up on Malcolm X. Matter of fact, my oldest brother, his name was Curtis Malcolm Isom. He grew us up on people like Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael. My nickname used to be Stokely, rather, my dad called me. He grew us up on Dr. King, the civil rights movement. And so as opposed to reading it in our books, as opposed to me watching it on TV like our dad, and I said, let me be a part of this epic part of history. You see what I'm saying? And so now from that truth, we can do these things. And so, like I say, I know we're going to take precautionary measures because we don't want anybody to get sick. We don't need, we want to honor and respect this virus. And at the same time, in addition to that, because remember I said I'm this and that. In addition to that, we're going to definitely offer a lot of different stuff because the space right now, it needs some TLC. Not the building looks great. I mean some TLC from people actually coming in to the space. That's the kind of tender love and care I'm talking about.
Yeah. That is awesome. Have you been wanting to start a podcast but not sure where to begin? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I really love how easy it is to create. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor is spelled ANCHOR. So I always ask people this, what are you curious about right now? And of course it can be related to yoga in your studio, or it could be something completely different.
Let's switch gears. I mean, because of course I'm curious about my yoga studio now. Come on, and the epic implication it has nationally, statewide, and citywide. I'm just putting that out there. But what you said? What am I passionate about, or what am I interested?
What are you curious about right now? And of course, we could use the word passionate as well.
Okay, you know what? I'm not going to step too totally off that platform, and I am curious about how we can. I am curious about seeing how we can bridge everybody together with so many differences. You know what I'm saying? I really, 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 really want to see that happen. So I'm curious on how to make that work. Secondly, I'm very curious at this time right now. My major is business and my minor is kinesiology. So as you can see, like I say, God, the universe always works for me because at the time I just wanted to play pro ball. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I chose to play to business because I always saw myself in a suit and walking with a briefcase in a big building. So that was my business inspiration. And of course with kinesiology, I was just like, man, what would be the easiest thing to do? You know what I mean? Getting out of here, because my goal was pro ball. Ironically enough, I'm a business owner. Ironically enough, with kinesiology and the study of the anatomy of the body and how it functions, I've been doing movement all my life. So it kind of works hand in hand. I'm curious about business though, entrepreneurship, really understanding like investments and getting people, if people are investing in me, making them get their ROI or vice versa. You know what I mean? I see right now, just like getting the studio, like finding an opportunity, seizing the moment, and how do we grow it from there? To me, that's the essence of entrepreneurship, and it's tough, right? But you have to be creative. It's very tough. And I like the creativeness that comes along with it because that's how my mind, I'm realizing now that this is the best way for my mind to operate. And so it's how do we bridge people together, and also entrepreneurship. And what else am I curious about? I'm cheating myself by you only giving me 3, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll just make one more. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I have to be honest with you. Now, this is my little tender heart coming out now. Not necessarily what I'm curious. Well, yeah, I actually want a family. I want a wife. I want some kids. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm realizing like, I'm taking it old school now. I don't know how people do these days. Like I say, I'm country. My dad is 69, my mother's 64 respectively. So I have old school country values. Okay. But of course, I understand getting this business off the ground in this yoga studio and, solidifying who I am that then everything else is going to come. Once again, being rooted, right, into self. That's foundation. And so I understand that what I'm doing now is setting me up for that. And I think that's why another reason why I'm working hard. Like, I want a significant other. I would love to talk to someone and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or help her out. Or you know what I mean? That exchange. And I don't have it. And then once again, I'm a twin. So I'm used to being a part of somebody, you know, the energy. And also I've been playing sports all my life. So I'm a twin. I'm a team player. I'm the ultimate team player. Ultimate. And you'll see how I run the studio, it's gonna be like, man, I feel like this is family, or like I feel like I'm at home. I wanted to feel that way. And so I'm intrigued on and curious about when that significant other is gonna come. And so yeah, those are the three.
Cool. So what I'm hearing all of this, it sounds like, don't you think everything in your life, it seems it's built up to this moment where you're opening this studio?
You know what? And I'll say this, and I'm gonna make this short, sweet, and simple because this will be something. Actually, what time we got?
We have time. We have like 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, man, I will be honest with you. Part of the reason why I went home in 2015 started was because I was out here homeless. You hear me? Oh. Literally homeless out on the streets for if I combine the years or the months, it had to be about. Honestly, I've been out here in Austin for a year and a half, probably total time, homeless. Whether I was sleeping out of my car, couch surfing, or sleeping out on park benches or under bridges. You see what I'm saying? And here's the irony. Here's the irony. I was doing yoga at the time. I'm on Austin Fit magazine, inside of it, promoting somebody else's business. I'm on billboards and covers and all of that, but they don't know that when I go home and lay my head at night, I'm sleeping under a bridge. You see what I'm saying? But I understand that God has blessed me with something, because for me to still get opportunities and I didn't have nothing, that means something to me. It's like, man, what are you fun? Because it ain't about my material. It's not about my external, even though that draws people. It's not about what I have. You know what I mean? That wasn't what was making me happy. And guess what? I was still out there helping people. I was still out there giving a shirt off my back, and I didn't have nothing. I was still doing my yoga classes, still training people. And I remember it was days I used to be under a bridge. I would set my alarm after waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, and all I had was 2 bags, sweating. You know what I'm saying? And I had bags of my weights and some bands, and I would go train, walk. I didn't have a car. I would literally walk. I don't tell them how long, just to my next client. Change my clothes real quick. And train, and I'm still giving them energy, and they don't know that, man, I'm depleted. But I was making them feel good. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I have to attribute that to how we grew up in the country. Once again, I'll say that you were taught the values of hard work and how to set goals to achieve your dream. You were taught man, keep pushing and keep fighting. And if society, if first you don't succeed, try again. That's a sports background too. So I couldn't allow myself, and also my ego wouldn't allow me to ask nobody for help. And that's why I'm saying, going to these teacher trainings and things like that, and understanding trauma, you know what I mean? And understanding all of this stuff, it makes sense on my life. Because at the time, being in the yoga community, which I was inundated in, I didn't feel, and then also too, just my own natural ego. I didn't want people, they were thinking I was doing good in the world, but actually I wasn't. And I didn't want that, I didn't want to let anyone know that. And so, with that being said, I don't know where I was going with this. What was the question? Because it was leading to something.
Wow. Yeah, we have gone off. Oh, we were talking about, I said, don't you feel like everything has led you to this moment of opening the studio? And then you said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. When I went home you were talking about not having a home for a year and a half in Austin, and you went back to your hometown, I guess, to replenish. I think that's where that ended up.
For sure. And that's the right reason why I told you the story about being homeless. And then when I came out here, I've gotten, to be honest with you, just who I am by nature. I can't help my upbringing as Christian. I felt like the yoga community, I didn't feel the vibe, even around the Black community, Black people of color, and some of those mindfulness yoga communities, the very communities I'm giving my life for, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I definitely felt judged in those communities. And so I was actually even pushed out of some of them, you know what I mean? And without even an understanding of what he's going through, his trauma, people don't even know. I was literally I have given my last. I've given my everything for people, you know what I mean? And people would look at me like, boy, you have such charm and charisma, and look, why don't I would be, you know what I mean? But I can't help that my essence and my heart has always been to give back, give unto others. So it's almost like as soon as I get, I give. And my mother, she taught us this, and of course the Bible says this: "Give and it shall be given unto you in good measure." And so I feel like by doing that so long, however hard it may have been, how many sleepless nights and cries and tears, even to the day I cried. You know what I mean? I have to believe it was a combination. I have to believe, because I've been so selfless in my approach, that's the reason why we're getting this Black-owned yoga studio on the east side of Austin in the historic district. It's the timing and everything is just like so perfect. And I want to encourage people to like, yo, I'm only here by the grace of a higher God, really, and I'm only here because I gave first. How did you get here, Chris? Because I gave. You know what I mean? That's it. Whether I'm giving it my all to what I'm doing personally, or whether I'm giving back to others. You know what I mean? Literally, even if I don't have nothing, if I'm just giving like, hey, a big smile and good energy, you know what I'm saying? And I know that God blessed me with enough energy to give. And so I would be remiss if I didn't. And so anyway, I feel like, and I know this, that's why I was up at 4:30 this morning and I went inside of the studio just to kind of like take it all in, because I'm like, man, all the blood, the sweat, the tears, the crying, the mental trauma, all of that, you know what I mean? It's led up to this point. And at the same time, guess what? I don't even have my eye bone in my body. I'm still giving back. I'm still like, yo, this is for us. Yeah. And I'll leave you with this one on this question is, they asked Muhammad Ali, they asked him, you know, he's known for quotes, and that's my dad, one of my dad's childhood heroes too. He was deeply rooted into the African American culture. But Muhammad Ali said this, and a gentleman was like, "Hey, I need a quote. I need a quote for the paper." Like, you know how reporters are. And Muhammad Ali said, "Well, I'll give you one quote." And the reporter said, "Man, Muhammad Ali gave him the shortest quote in the history of quotes, but it meant so much." And Muhammad Ali said, "Me, we." And to me, that's powerful. I'm like, man, it's me, we together. It's not about me, it's about we, it's about us, it's about community, it's about everybody. Pun intended, shameless plug.
Hey, plug away. This is the new world, you know, people then profit. I want to ask, I'm a little curious more about, in the beginning of your yoga practicing, I believe before you got certified, you were saying how, you know, you didn't fit in. There was that trauma there. And then fast forward to now, you're teaching, obviously you teach yoga, you found Sanctuary Yoga. How did you heal your own trauma in the yoga space, or is it still a work in progress?
Ooh, you know what it is? I think the only reason why I'm going to say it's a work in progress is because me healing is me getting this studio. You see what I'm saying? Me healing is saying, you know what? Even though I felt a certain type of way, I'm still going to invite everybody in. You know what I mean? That is me healing. You know what I mean? So I would have to say, yeah, that's me healing. It didn't necessarily take even though therapy is very important, but I think my actions in the doing, and then also too, to be able to see people happy, and that is my healing. You know what I mean? And I can say that from the foundation, it's not coming from somebody else. It's, you know, I've been blessed to be able to offer this, you know what I mean? As opposed to being offered to me, because I've been offered everything under the sun. And for some reason, it just didn't vibe. And like I told you, I feel energy, I feel vibes, I feel it. I came in the womb, like I said, with someone. So, and my mother's a dynamic. You think I'm dynamic and powerful? Woo! This lady here. So, so being able to have ownership and having control, not business for sure. Like I told you, that's the thing I'm interested with. But being able to have ownership and just in general of your thought or your creativity or your life, that's therapy for me, because I couldn't get it nowhere else. And in some of these same communities that talk mindfulness and healing, when real life situations happen, I'm letting you know that right now, without saying no names, as individual or collective, when real life stuff happened, all of that stuff we was talking, we didn't. I'm gonna just say, we didn't practice it. I'm letting you know right now, and that's without getting into too much information. So that hurt me, that troubled me, because here I'm like, y'all, we sitting up and speaking about it, and then when real stuff happened, it's like, hey, we can't deal with it. We don't want to be associated with it. What do you mean? That's why I said, like, in this studio, anybody who's ever made a mistake, you're welcome, because we're not gonna judge you based upon, no, I don't want to be around that. No, because we all been there before. You know what I mean? We're all healing from something, and forget about, you know what I mean? Forget about practicing it or talking it on the mat. Well, we're gonna talk about trauma and then we're gonna breathe it out. No, let's really have open conversation and dialogue. Let's really figure out what's going on with an individual. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because if we talk about it in a blanket statement, we ain't really getting nowhere. We kind of like going in circles. You know what I'm saying? And so that is my healing, being able to say, you know what, I know what I've seen. I know what has been done to me. I also know how I've hurt and harmed other people. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, there's this guy, this pastor I'll be listening to on the radio, old guy, right? He's a white guy, right? And he was like, I forgot who he said. I'm gonna just say, Paul said, of all the sinners, right? And I know a lot of people don't like sinners. I know that's a traumatic word, but of all the people that made the most mistakes, but this gentleman said, of all the sinners in the world, I am chief. And the same thing with me. Of all the people the person that has made the most mistakes, I am chief. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not removing myself from that whole inclusion of what I've seen and what I would like to see. This part right here is the transition into, like, this is what I would like to see. You know what I mean? And so being able to see it and talk to you and other people and how they're so supportive and so wanting to help this, because like I say, to have a passion such as this, to want to help like this for such a magnetic thing, that must mean we have to have went through something our own selves to have to, because passion is only derived from an experience. If I've never gone through anything and everything was just handed to me, there's no passion, and people can feel that. So if you've gone through a lot, man, you're gonna be passionate. You know what I'm saying? And I love to see the passion toward this community yoga project. And like I said, the name of it, Everybody Yoga, a community yoga project, because this is something that hasn't been done before. You know what I mean? By and large, and we get to do it collectively together. That's my healing.
I love that. I love your passion. I love your energy about it. Every time we have conversations about this, I get so excited. Where can people find you?
Hey, well, right now I'm at my home. No, I'm just kidding. No, so look, check this out, y'all. You can find me on ISOMZone, which is my last name, ISOMZONE. That's Instagram. In addition to that, now we're all going to create a whole entirely different Instagram account, of course, for the yoga studio. It's not here yet, okay? So we're getting inspiration from you guys and the support on how we want to create. You know what I'm saying? As well as the website. So it's ISOMZone and Instagram. In addition to that, we have our website, isomzone.com. There you can find, we have like a summertime find. It's a summertime workout with abs and booty. So you guys can check that out. In addition to that, we sell our sea moss. Sea moss has 92 of the 102 essential minerals that your body needs. It tells about it on there. In addition to that, we can sponsor our youth. Myself, my team, my company, we do a lot of outreach work with the youth. You guys can sponsor Child Death because that helps us keep the programs going. It helps us feed our youth. Okay, so like I say, in the world that we're always me, I, my, let's go ahead and start thinking outside of it. That's cool, like I say, in addition to that, not to negate it. But in addition to that, let's start talking about how we can help these communities. And like I told you before, being there, being amongst the community, like actually going there, that helps. So you can find that and how to sponsor at isomzone.com. Last but certainly not least, well, actually two more. Okay. You can also find us on our Patreon account. So Patreon, you become a patron, and I'll spell this out for you. It's www, of course, Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/ ISOM Zone Community. Y'all rewind that, repeat it. So what you can do there is you can become a part of our community. I keep saying community. You cannot have the word community. You can't have community without unity. It's written all in there. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like that's how you can become a Patreon. What happens there is you can subscribe monthly to our membership. It's different tiers, and with each tier, depending on what you pay, you getting certain things. And I know one of the memberships, you get a free yoga membership. Anytime you come in town, anytime you come to the door, you get the free yoga membership. You got T-shirts. You get up-to-date live videos from us helping build out our space. All of that you can find within the Patreon. In addition to that, not only do our proceeds and resources go toward building out our community, yoga studio and paying the rent and getting these things done on the inside, it also goes back to our youth. It helps us keep our youth programs going. So if you see a value in what we're doing and you want to say, you know what, let me have to keep this going monthly so we can kind of feel, because I want so many people inside of the Patreon so we can feel like a community. We're growing the community virtually because that's where we're at now. And also too, if you want to show a monetary value, like how can I help though? I live in Australia. Well, hey, go to the Patreon account and you can still be a part of it. So you can find me on those three things. And also too, we have a Facebook page at facebook.com/ISOM Zone. And yeah, that's it.
Great. And all that information will be in the show notes. And the Patreon you have great member perks on your Patreon. So I highly recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope to have you back soon, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I would love to come back.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did about yoga and everybody with the amazing Chris Isom. He is doing such incredible work, not just in the yoga community, but also with the Black, Indigenous, people of color community with his business. This is something you can really feel great about supporting, especially now at this time. So I encourage you, if you are able, to support Chris and Yoga for Everybody. The link to his Patreon is down in the show notes. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcast. It is completely free to subscribe, and you will get updated on the latest episodes. Please share this episode with your friends. We very much appreciate word of mouth advertising from our listeners. And if you would like to help the podcast, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Our email is yogaandpodcast@gmail.com. The and is spelled out YOGAAND podcast@gmail. And you can follow us on Instagram, Yoga and Podcast. Please let us know if you have any specific topics for future episodes. We now have merch such as coffee mugs, tote bags, fanny packs, t-shirts, and you can check that out on my website, ashleyweberyoga.com/podcast. Remember that this podcast is for everybody, and if you are a human living on planet Earth, you might benefit from listening to Yoga and Podcast. See you next week.